from you. Yes, wait, we've heard from you too. Does anyone else, any ladies have any questions? Because I would love to hear from a woman. Anyone? You. I'm calling you out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
What am I gonna ask?
I don't know.
I guess, well, since I'm a woman, what about the lowest characters? I feel like the development of that relationship and the actresses, did they get any further than just throwing names out, or was it just?
Well, they've written the scripts, but they hadn't actually gotten to the casting. But I think that the closest that they got was Julianne Moore. I think Julianne Moore was definitely, she would have been great. Yeah, because Sandra obviously turned it down. But as far as development of that character,
Right.
I'll let John elaborate on that. But yeah.
I was gonna say, you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Last question?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna elaborate on it.
Oh, well, I mean, there's some of the, I mean, they really didn't get that far with the casting. I mean, obviously Kevin Spacey and Christopher Walken, that sounds amazing, but they never got a script. No one ever got scripts, you know, sort of like.
But as far as in the script itself, the development, it was crucial. One of the things Dan Gilroy talks about was that was something that I thought that both John Peters and Dan Gilroy were really invested in. Towards the end, it was a struggle for Superman to think that he was going to kill the love of his life.
And in the Gilroy script, it ends with him and Lois like, let's go have a life. They're like gonna go get married. That's how it ends, and they're gonna have a kid. So it's very much like there's little like leftovers from Superman Returns. Remember he had just floating around staring at his kid and stuff like in Superman Returns. He ran away because he had a kid. I guess that, you know,
Stalker Superman.
Yeah, it's like, so this was gonna be Stalker Superman. So this was gonna be like more of a lighthearted, like, hey, you know what? We worked it all out. Let's hang out. You know, it's all good. They were kind of like they were definitely like in a relationship when the movie starts. They're sleeping around, like having fun, and it's like they're like.
I don't think it would have passed the Bechdel test.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have happened. Sorry. You.
Before the chocolate farm, if you guys go and we get to lunch, you guys kind of have like a mental image of how much what if they got to get it big and you actually think it would have been good?
I think it would have been a lot of fun. I always refer to it as like a cosmic fairy tale, like Nick Cage says, "You're writing a fairy tale." It's like it would have had that fun. It would have been a Batman and Robin corny type of like horrible like shuddering effect. It would have been more like magical. Like if you like Mars Attacks, I think it would have had that kind of flavor. It would have had that humor, and it would have had that lightness to it. It would have been a dark Batman style gothic film. It would have had this light tone to it. Would have had a lot of fun action. It would have had science fiction overtones with Brainiac and the Skull Ship. It would have had these emotional elements that no Superman movie before or since have done, because the way Tim and Nick were approaching it emotionally were like, this is an outcast guy who never felt like he fit in. They were retrofitting the origin in such a way that it was like, it was somebody already, like, just like comic book nerds who were beat up back in the 80s and their entire lives until it became popular. It was like people who felt outcast or bullied or didn't fit in properly. They were actually putting a great spin on a character who even now people don't relate to. With the Superman character, a lot of people, he's too powerful, he's boring, or this and that. They were giving him this emotional, psychological arc that I think would have worked.
I actually think that in some ways, as far as Tim Burton directing it, I feel like in some ways that it would have been more accessible for Tim Burton than Batman even was, because I think that he was so alien that I really think that even though Tim Burton wasn't a comic book reader or fan, his personal association with that, even when you hear him talk about it, he said, well, I thought that Michael Keaton is the type of guy who could only intimidate people if he dressed like a bat. That's almost more removed than I think Tim Burton would have come at Superman with. I think he would have been, it would have been something so much more emotional than we even got from Man of Steel, you know?
Right. He says that in a few times. What he's talking about when he's like, him having to hide on such a large scale, it's that he's actually three characters. He's hiding as Clark Kent the fact that he's Superman, and Superman is hiding the fact that he's an alien. So there's like all this multiple freaked out psychological stuff going on. So I think it would have been really fun. You, and then we'll get you.
Before Kevin Smith saying like Tim Burton doesn't, like his work, and you've read his script and the second script.
Right.
Out of the three scripts that you've read, which one do you think would have been the most interesting
I think Kevin Smith's second draft was a lot of fun. It had it had Black Manta, it had all these different characters in it. It was definitely the sweatiest, like nerdiest comic book drenched one. It had little Easter eggs for everybody. And this was before Easter eggs were even like Easter eggs. And people were like, what the fuck's an Easter egg? You know, it's like now everybody's like, where's the second ending? All this weird shit that didn't exist back then. It's a fucking movie. What do you mean? Get out of here. It's the credits. Nobody watches the credits. That's why I threw this fucking extra ending in. This is a little fun. Like, hey, there's a fucking nugget at the end, motherfucker. You know, it's like you can watch a billion names scroll by. But yeah, I think it's Kevin's second script, which was a lot tighter than the first. They're both online. You can read those. And then I like Dan Gilroy's script. It's like, at least it's the script that's available is like kind of the semi-truncated one. It's
There's
like
a second one.
there's a second one, which is technically his first one, which is like a little bit fuller. So I think what Gilroy was doing was really good. It never got finished, you know. So it's like it's hard. None of them are finished scripts. They're all drafts. So nothing is like, oh, this is locked down. So whenever you read a script, you're like, that one scene kind of sucked. I bet it would have gotten cut.
Yeah, ninjas would have been cut.
Yeah, all that shit was never gonna happen. So it's like somebody storyboarded it. Michael Anthony Jackson said, yeah, I had to storyboard these ninjas.
How about that line where
Producers
he
don't
says,
want them.
I had to ditch the Matrix to work on Superman Lives too. That's like a knife to the heart.
Damn. That's
It was
crazy.
like Steve Scrosey had to take over. Steve was like, thank you, I'm taking your job.
Are we taking one more question or we're gonna
That
talk?
gal right there, your question.
Yeah.
Just to go along with the gentleman's question in the front, how do you think, as this movie had taken off, how do you think it would have set the precedent for the films that we currently have? Considering it was trying to sort of convey the complete antithesis of what we think of Superman is now.
Right. You know what? I like to think about it because I thought about that even before we did the Kickstarters. Like, here we are at the time, it was 2013, and this movie would have come out in 1999. And it would have, like, Marvel, you know, there were a bunch of other attempts, like, that were successful, like Spider-Man, that's Sony. Like, Sam Raimi's, Spider-Man 1 and 2, the Doc Ock one, were incredible films. And superhero-y. It wasn't like, we're shying away from the X-Men outfits, and it was like, no, he's Spider-Man, he's wearing the outfit, that's Dr. Octopus. It was very much embracing all the things, and that's what Raimi was good at. He was good at embracing the things that made Spider-Man cool, which was like Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's early issues, and then bringing that into our world now. But it still had that flavor. A lot of other directors just don't get it, so they're always constantly putting this other spin and this other flavor on it. So until Kevin Feige came in and kind of like, he's kind of oversees every single one of the films, even though there's different writers and directors, but he gives them enough room so they can have fun with it. Like, so that's why you get someone like Guns, Guardians of the Galaxy, you get these kinds of things. But
Edgar Wright.
right, well, I mean, some things don't work out. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, with if Superman Lives came out in '99, in 1999, Marvel was bankrupt, and DC was almost going to buy Marvel. Like, a lot of people don't know that. If this movie came out, a lot of things could have happened differently. Iron Man would have never happened. I can tell you that straight up. A whole bunch of different films that were involving DC, because I think Superman Lives would have been a hit. That's how I feel about it. It would have been something that people weren't expecting. If it got made, it would have hit this chord that people were just, like, you look at The Matrix, and that was like that thing that people were like, God damn, thank God someone finally fucking made that shit. You know what I mean? Like, all these people, like, I was into all these Hong Kong films and all this stuff that was like an undercurrent. I was into that stuff in the 80s. Like, all of it just bubbled up, and they just combined all this amazing stuff and made The Matrix. I think this Superman movie was combining a bunch of other elements that people wanted to see happen. So, maybe Michael Keaton would have been the world's finest in 2002. There's all these, like, he would have been coming back as Batman, is my guess, if Tim Burton proceeded to make a world's finest from the cage. A lot of things, so we would be in a different world as far as, like, that guy would not be dressed as Captain America. He would probably be dressed as, like, I was a big fan of the 2004 Green Lantern. And we would be like, what the fuck, It didn't involve a poo cloud. So, yeah, the world would be different. Like, one of my favorite stories of Ray Bradbury is The Sound of Thunder. If you ever read that short story, it's great, because this guy steps on a butterfly and fucks the entire world up. It's still the same, but the sky's purple and everything's spelled weird. But it's just, it's one of those things where, like, if Superman Lives happened, and I couldn't have made this movie without this woman right here. She was my rock. When I started getting crazy, she'd be like, don't go crazy. I'm like, I got this. So Thank you guys so much. We're gonna like sell our DVDs and Blu-rays if you want to get a copy. Thanks for hanging out and doing the Q&A with us. We'll be right around the corner.
See you in